story about a farmer with two boys. The older son was a good boy. He worked hard, took care of things, and he was getting ready to take over the farm. The younger boy, not so much. The younger boy had a wandering spirit, and one day he went to his father and said, "Dad, I just can't stand it here anymore. Please give me my share. Give me the inheritance I've earned as your younger son, and well, give me your blessing, Dad. I really need to get out of here." And so the father, very humbly and sadly, complied. He made provisions for his son and handed over the cash. And in an hour or so later, within the hour, the son was going down the road. He went to a foreign land, and in that foreign land, he didn't live a very wholesome life. He was a wild young man. He wasted his money, squandered it on what one translation calls licentious living. You can use your imagination about what that means. And of course, before long, he had nothing. And all those friends who were around him when he was buying for them were gone. And a depression set in on the land. There was a drought, and all of a sudden there were no jobs and there was no food. And he finally managed to find a job out with another farmer feeding the pigs. And he got so hungry that he would have eaten with the pigs if he could have. And there in that lonely and destitute pigsty, the young man had a thought. He realized, the servants in my dad's house really have it better than this. Maybe if I humble myself, maybe if I acknowledge to Dad that I don't deserve to be called his son, I know I've sinned against him and I've sinned against heaven, maybe he would welcome me home. And so the boy started home. And while he was still a long way down the road, his father saw him coming. And his father bounded out of the house and ran down the road, and with open arms, he greeted his son with a bear hug. And the son, again, humbled himself. Dad, I've messed up. I've lost everything. I don't deserve to be your son. Make room for me in the servants' quarters, Dad. But his dad, in the midst of that bear hug, his dad was overflowing with joy. And he called for the servants and he said, "Get a robe and get a ring and celebrate. This son of mine that was dead has come back to life." The experience that we've all shared in this tragedy has kind of opened the door. It's opened our awareness to the fact that we have a generation of young adults who aren't in our churches on Sunday morning. A generation of young adults who are in that foreign land. And I know it's a stereotype, but there are a lot of young adults, and not so young adults, who've gone to that foreign land where they've just given themselves, they've given their hearts, they've given themselves to destructive things. There's one more character in the story. As the party gets going and as the dad's heart is overflowing with love and joy, the older brother, the older son, comes in from the field and he sees what's going on and he finds out that his younger brother, that scoundrel, has come home. And I realized that so often, those of us here, myself included, we end up looking at situations from the eyes of the older brother. What are our wishes for these young men or the Waters family? Jesus was really clear that his disciples were to be fishers of men. And I don't know how this happens. But in God, with God's grace, and somehow God, as followers of God who humble ourselves before him, and I hope that we've all been maybe in the place of that younger brother and been desperate and called out to God for healing, for help, and for forgiveness. But somehow, God transposes the heart of the older brother that's jealous and annoyed with the heart of the father, whose arms are open, who's just aching to see these young people come home. And the problem is, so many of the young people who are out there in the pigsties around us don't remember the Father. They don't remember that there's a place where they can be welcomed with a hug and with unconditional love. And it's our calling as followers of Jesus to tell them, to show them the way home. I don't want you to be uncomfortable, but I'd like to invite you to share a hug, to give or receive a hug and receive with someone near you, if you're comfortable with that. To feel the loving arms around you, and to know that you're loved.
Okay, no problem. I'm giving, but okay. Understand.
As we enter back into a time of grace,
Great man.
I'd like to invite you to ask God for a loving heart. I challenge you to ask God for the gift, the heart of compassion. It's able to see and discern the people that need hugs, that need to be shown the way home. And for God to fill us with that love. Let's pray.